Hey, we're Matt and Julie Beamer with Jonathan and Elizabeth Beamer, and we are celebrating 30 years of living and ministering overseas. And to do that, we're going to be sharing stories both today, Club 1040 Day, and throughout the year coming. We'll be dropping different stories, different podcasts, and things like that to show you how your investment in Club 1040 is making an impact throughout the Middle East and North Africa, and to talk about how by the year 2030, we want to see that impact expand and continue in a strong and more quick way. So make sure you don't miss out, and also help us out by sharing these with your friends as well. Spread the word, because the more we get this word out, the more we can do, the more quickly we can do it together. God bless.
You know, when we first went over there, we had met this couple, and our introduction was into something called Kingdom Faith. And Matt was a main speaker for all of the youth at this camp. And we started building a relationship with this group, Kingdom Faith. We came back to Manchester, and there was a couple that was there. In fact, it was the head of all of Kingdom Faith. His daughter and son-in-law were there. And we asked them to come to one of our first meetings to preach at our meetings. And we kind of developed a relationship with them there. And as we were building the church, they were also building their church. And our church was growing. And all of a sudden, God spoke to us one time, or spoke to you. You need to get together with this guy and pray with him, because there's something that needed to happen in the city with this guy.
Yeah, the way it was spoken to my heart is there's something that requires relationship that it can only come, that it's only birthed through times of prayer together. So Pastor Allen and I, we meet together and pray. And after doing that, every 4 to 5 weeks we do that. And after about 3 or 4 times doing it, I began to see that I think God wants to bring our churches together. I presented that to him. At first, he thought it was like, why, his church at the time was 70, ours was like 350. He's like, why would you want me to come over and pastor your church, when it's so much bigger? And I'm like, our church needs a pastor, because we were called to be pioneers. Mm-hmm. And I had learned that you can't keep pioneering with people forever. You'll tire the people out. And that was something we learned at Bible college that I could begin to see was happening with us. And so I knew that we needed a shepherd pastor there, and they're that 100%. Yeah. So a few months later, we were actually doing a wedding for one of our church people, and he calls up and he says, "Hey, what? Were you serious about that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, for sure I was." And he's like, "What would it look like?" And I'm like, I don't know. I hadn't thought about that part. Well, what it looked like, and it just came out of my heart. It's like, I know, it'd be like a blended family thing, 2 single parent families. And so we adopted this idea of like a marriage through the whole process. They were the bride, we were the groom. And so I had to go and ask, because their church was a part of a denominational sort of organization, kind of. So I had to go to ask for, the father's hand in marriage, kind of a thing. And they loved the whole idea of it, and were very gracious. And then we had pre-marriage counseling, kind of. We had introductions, and we ministered in each other's churches a little bit, things like that. Talked to the leaders, and then eventually we had a marriage ceremony, which was pretty cool. All the mayor and all the different leaders of the city were there, and we had his leadership from his church and the leadership from our church were both. The unity candle in the American wedding, it's not in the English wedding, but is this idea of 2 people coming together as one new person. There's this big unity candle. We had a massive candle in the middle. We had candelabras on either side of this platform. And then his leaders and our leaders came and took candles, and we lit that. These 2 churches don't exist like they used to. We're now one new church. And it was a real miracle. The church, I think there was only one family that didn't transition because it was too far for them to travel. But the church grew through that. It became especially for a short season, pretty well known and talked about throughout the church community, throughout the whole country. It's like he would say it like this. He says, "We're sowing our church to reap a city, to reap a region, a nation, that kind of a thing." And that was huge for them. They became their associate pastors. Well,
we were finally getting to the place where after all the hard work and building this church to where it was like our baby. In fact, we started the church just like 3 months after Jonathan was born. So we could literally see the church grow alongside of Jonathan growing. And it was truly like our baby. They were helping us to pastor. They were teachers. They were helping us to do all the pastoral care, which we weren't really good at the pastoral care. And they were helping us to do that, starting groups and everything. And then you went away again to pray. These prayer
Dun, dun,
times.
dun.
Yeah, dun, dun, dun.
That's
and
true.
yeah, we had gone on a Steps of Paul thing and started looking in.
Well, before that, remember, the church had turned 10 years old. And so we're like, I'm going to spend the first 30 days of what was, when was that? 2028, the first
20,000.
2008, the first 30 days of that year, praying about the next 10 years.
Yeah.
And in that, there were several things that happened, but one thing that happened is God began to work in me about the fact that we need to reposition ourselves, and it had to do with Nigeria, but then also the importance of turning over the church. And then 2 months later, we were doing the Steps to Paul thing. And that's when it really kind of, you and I remember everybody else went on an excursion one day, and you and I sat there. We're in Turkey, which is now 99% Muslim. And we're like, look, at one point, the church of Ephesus was here. All these other churches were here. Now look where it is. It's like, there's other churches now that are getting started in Manchester. I don't think Manchester needs us anymore. I think we're supposed to be here. And we had those kind of conversations. And it was shortly after that, there was another one of those kind of like, I came into you and you're like, are you okay? And I'm like, no, I don't think so. I think we're supposed to move to Nigeria. Start crying.
So after the merger of the church, it accelerated pretty quickly.
Yeah, it did.
We had no idea when the merger was taking place that this was going to be what God's plan was. And there truly was something, because they literally have had the church up until this year, and they've just recently turned that
15 years,
over.
yeah.
They recently turned that over to another couple that was with them. And that church continues to grow and thrive and
Now
lead in
called
the
Go
city.
Church.
Go Church, yeah.
One of many now.
There's also a cultural aspect to that. We're handing it over to the local leaders that
Yeah.
has played into what you've done. I mean, in the 1040 window.
Yeah, that's the setup of what Club 1040 does now, is that we go into a place, raise up the local people so that they can go out, because like you said, people who are the same skin color or the same culture can reach the people in the nation way more effective than somebody moving in.
100%. Yeah, that's right.
We knew before stepping out that we had this gift, but you'd never tell people that we think we know we have this gift. And then now seeing it in operation all these years, it's been so neat to see how God's developed. But your dad is really good at going in, seeing and hearing God's strategy, and then God brings somebody alongside of us to help us with that vision. And then it blossoms and it just navigates, and then it's not long before you're able to turn that over. It's wonderful to participate in seeing God's gift work inside of you and work through you and be part of what his plan is.
One thing I would say is that, it's part of Club 1040 and your guys' mission is that obviously everything we do, or everything God does in the earth, is through relationships, but seeing that actively play out it's been wild. Like every single place that you guys have gone, that we have gone, the teams that come along, like you said, the family members the people that become family members that come alongside to champion us, it's been really, really amazing to see the quality of people and to see what they go on to do. I've always said, anyone that gets around you guys, the life just increases times a million. So yeah, it's been really cool.
Thank you so much for hanging out with us, hearing some of the stories, and letting us pull back the curtain a little bit and invite you into our family adventures over these last 30 years. It's because of you that Club 1040 has been able to do anything that we've done. Thank you so much.